Hello and welcome back. In the last section, we actually went on creating our new API to create the users in our system every time a user signs up. Okay, and the next thing we want to do here is essentially wire up this API with our front-end UI so that the next time a user signs up, we want the user details, the ID of the user that's given to us by Auth0 and the email that the user has provided to be stored on our system in MongoDB. And we went ahead and tested that, both the positive as well as the negative flows. Let's head over to Mongo and we want to see if this user collection was actually created. I'll go ahead and click on Intg Cafe database, and in here, go ahead and click on collections, and there we see the users. Okay. Super. So we have one document here in the user collections, and that's what we created. All right. And so we're looking good here right now. So let's head over back to our UI project editor, and let me close this. Let me go ahead and save this and then close this as well. And this is my Intg Cafe FE project. All right. So inside of here, I'm going to create a new function where I can call the API for user creation. I'll head over to the API folder and I'm going to create a new folder called user. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and create a file called index.js. Okay. Super. So inside of here, I'm going to first import Axios instance as always. Axios instance, and that's gonna be coming from the util folder, right? And I need Axios instance here. Alright, super. And after this, I'm going to define this function which is going to create a user for us. I'm going to say export const create user, and this is going to get a user object, and this is going to be an arrow function. And inside of here, I'm going to open a try catch block. And in here, I'm going to go ahead and console log the error, Alt Control L. Yep, this time around it worked. And over here, I'm going to say const result is equal to await. And again, this has to be an async function because we're going to be using the async await syntax. And from the user object, we're going to be essentially getting a couple of things here, right? So we had to destructure this to get the email, okay? The email and the user, okay? Oh, okay, I think email and the sub, sorry. So if I go back to our JWT website, I think we were getting the user object here. Inside of that, we have a sub property and we have an email property, and from the sub we're going to essentially split this by this delimiter and get the second argument from there, which is this. Okay, essentially we want to store this ID inside our system. Super. So let's go back in here. I'm going to say I need the sub from the user, no, the user itself. So I'm going to say destructure user and give me email and user, email and sub. Okay. And then I'm going to say const underscore ID is going to be equal to sub dot split, and we're going to be splitting on the pipe symbol, and I want the second element of that array. Okay, essentially it's going to be an array of elements, and the first element obviously will be particular stuff Auth0, and then the second element will be this. Okay, all right. So we have the ID here, we have the email, and then next we have to actually form the payload, okay? So let's say const payload is equal to, obviously, underscore ID and email. So we should be good here. And what I'm going to do next is essentially call the Axios instance and go ahead and do a post, right? So I'm going to say await Axios instance, Axios instance, okay, and post, and this is going to be on /API/users, yeah, and then we have to pass the data, right, the payload. Super. All right. and then we are going to return the result. And if there's an error, we can log the error and essentially throw the error back up the calling chain here. Alright, this function is ready to be used in our React app. So let's head over back to app.js, and inside of here I'm going to go ahead and import this particular function. I'm going to say import create user, yeah, from ./API, yeah, user, yeah, that's about it. And in here I'm going to create another method called init, because this is going to be something that is a kind of initialization process, right? So I'm going to say init doesn't take anything. It's a typo in here. So inside of here, I'm just gonna copy this entire block. I'm gonna remove I'll retain the else block for now, but afterwards I'm gonna remove that as well. Okay. Const result. I need to await that, right? So which means this has to be an async function now. Okay. Const result is equal to await, and it's going to be awaiting create user function, and that is going to get a user object. The question is, where is the user object? The user object is coming from Auth0. Okay, this particular hook. If we are good here, I'm going to just do a console log of the result and result.data, because our stuff will be in data. Okay. All right. So we are good to go here, and we need to call the init function inside of the use effect hook. Alright, so let's see what happens now. And inside of here, I don't know if there was any stuff that got generated. Let me see, because generally if you're going to save this, it's going to make that call. Let me see if there was any call to the API /users/API. No, not yet. Okay, so let me sign out. Or better still, I'm going to go over back to the Mongo console and see if there was any new record that was inserted. Let me say refresh. Yeah, nothing, so which means it didn't get executed. So I'm going to sign back in now, and now essentially the user has to get created. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and continue. It should essentially go ahead and create the user for us. Okay. Alright, looks like it created here. Okay, and get a 201. Super. With an ID of this one, right? And this should be the same ID as that of what we got here in the sub, right? Was it 76F? Yes, it is. Okay, so let's see if we see that on the Mongo console. Let's head over back here. I'm going to go refresh one more time. Super, we have our first user created here, okay? And this user is already present in Auth0 platform, and we're essentially extracting the ID and email from there and then putting it in here, okay? Super. And the next thing you want to do though is sign out again and sign back in. And let's monitor the logs here. Say continue. Alright, looks like there is an error here. We got a conflict error, right? So there is a reason behind that. The reason is, this user is already present in our system. So essentially every time we log in, we are trying to create this user in our system. That's something that we need to avoid, right? So we need to create this user only when he first signs up and signs in for the first time. So the question is, how do we go ahead and accomplish that? And there is a way, right? So let's head over back to our Auth0 dashboard, and in here in the user management, let's go and click on the users and click on our user here, which is the lone existing user. And if you go to the details and scroll down, you get a few attributes here, okay? Identity provider attributes is what they say. And we have a logins count here, okay? And we can use this particular logins count to determine if a user has logged in the first time or not, right? So every time a user logs in, we need the logins count to be passed along with our user object, and which means our logins count will be part of this payload. All right, right now it is not, but we need to make sure we need to have that as part of the payload, and that will be the next topic of discussion in terms of how we can get that essentially injected into this payload. All right, so let's take a quick pause here and come back soon and discuss the next steps to get the logins count injected into this payload, the user payload. All right.